She's the sweetest. She's a big soccer player, very smart.
Tonight, families coping with tragedy as we learn the names of the victims in yesterday's shooting at a South Florida high school.
The firearm that was utilized in this event was purchased lawfully here in the state of Florida just short of a year ago by the individual who was charged with this crime.
States relying on
and we are learning more about the 19-year-old responsible for the killings and the timeline leading up to it. West 2, the News Hour at 10 starts now.
Local, live, late-breaking. West 2 News on CW18 starts now.
17 lives taken so quickly in one afternoon. The nation continues to grieve over the latest school shooting in America. Good evening. I'm Jim Payne.
I'm Meredith McDonough. As investigators pore over evidence inside of the high school, we are learning more about the victims who were killed.
A football coach, an athletic director, and young, fresh-faced students, all being remembered today by their friends, their families, and their communities. Tonight, thousands of people filled the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School campus to honor them all with a candlelight vigil. Among their grief, people shared prayers, hoping for the pain to eventually end.
Leaders say that there is still a long way to go in this investigation. West 2 Stuart Moore joins us now from Parkland, where it still remains an active crime scene. And Stu, what have you learned new today?
Well, Meredith, as you mentioned, it is a very active crime scene. We've been seeing investigators that have gone in and out of this area. It's expected to be locked down for, at minimum, the rest of the week and possibly into next week as well. But today we did hear from the sheriff the first breakdown of the timeline from when the alleged shooter arrived to this situation and when he was finally taken into custody. And he also went before a judge today and faced those 17 counts of premeditated murder. 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz stood with restraints on his hands and ankles as he listened to the judge announce he was facing 17 counts of murder and no possibility of getting out on bond. Investigators say Cruz took an Uber to Stoneman Douglas High School and got out of the car at 2:19 Wednesday afternoon. By 2:21, he was inside Building 12 and opened fire on 3 classrooms. The sheriff says he next went to the second floor and shot another person inside of a classroom. Then on the third floor, he dropped his rifle and backpack and ran downstairs, blending in with fleeing students as he escaped. Next, the suspect went to Walmart and purchased a drink from the Subway inside. At 3:01, less than an hour after the first shots, he sat inside of a McDonald's. 40 minutes later, he was in handcuffs in Coral Springs, a mile away from the high school. His court-appointed lawyer spoke out on his behalf today.
When your brain is not fully developed, you don't know how to deal with these things. When you have the lack of impulse control that a 19-year-old has, that affects the behavior that you exhibit. That's the child that I'm sitting across from. He's sad, he's mournful, he's remorseful.
And Meredith and Jim, coming up at 10:30, we'll take you back over to the visual. One of the parents of one of the girls who was killed at the school spoke out today. He questions himself as to whether or not he did one thing before his daughter left the house that morning. You'll also hear from parents who are concerned about their own children's safety during those tense moments before they were able to hear from them. Guys, it's coming up tonight at 10:30. For now, we'll send it back in the studio to you.
All right, Stuart, thanks so much. The shooting hits home for many people here in Central Florida. Tonight, the UCF community, including several alumni of Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, held their own candlelight vigil.
West 2's Kelly Rippin was there and explains how they are coming together to show their support. It's new on West 2.
Hours from home, but still shaken up by what happened in Parkland. Dozens of Douglas High School alumni gathered on UCF's Memory Mall tonight to help each other process what happened and also honor those lives lost.
We would just like to ask to take a moment of silence.
With candles lit, the students stood in silence for the 17 people killed in the school they know so well.
Those same hallways, those same floors, going into those same classrooms that these students were hiding in.
Many of those in attendance proudly wearing their Eagles gear and sharing stories of friends and siblings who were inside Wednesday when it all started.
To hear my brother's story of just he's sitting in his classroom and he hears the gunshots first. Like, school day's almost over. He hears the gunshots first.
Yeah, my heart was broken. My cousin was hiding in a closet yesterday. My aunt had no idea if he was coming out. I mean, those parents, I could not imagine.
My sister goes to Douglas. She's a junior. So I immediately texted her.
but thankfully I got a response back.
UCF students with no affiliation to Parkland also stopped by to show support, and staff members were there if any students wanted to talk.
Love the idea of everyone coming together, and to be quite honest, that's the only way that I can cope. Hopefully everyone benefits from it too.
Now, many of the students we spoke with tonight said they do plan to head home to Parkland this weekend to be with family. On UCF's campus, Kelly Rippin, West 2, the News Hour at 10.
And Washington, yesterday's shooting is taking the spotlight.
Florida lawmakers are trying to come to an agreement on how to keep these things from happening over and over.
I still hunt with my son, but an AR-15 is not for hunting, it's for killing. When is enough going to be enough?
I think it is a legitimate thing to say that even as we mourn, we have an obligation to ask ourselves, is there something we could have done or should do to ensure that we don't see these things happening?
Word of an armed student caused some alarm at Lake Nona High School in Orange County today. These pictures show the BB gun and pocket knife found in that student's book bag after administrators were tipped off to the weapons. The sophomore faces a felony charge. Parents were alerted by a phone call. The district did not provide the student's name.
This afternoon, Orange County leaders talked about how to keep your children safe at school. They say that they're constantly working to improve security, and now there will be increased efforts. After the shooting in Parkland, West 2's Matt Pulley explores some of their solutions.
Put metal detectors at every entrance to the schools! What can you do? You can do a lot!
As grieving parents in South Florida call for more security at schools, in Orange County, an increase in weapons screening is coming.
Yes, we're stepping up the pace on that.
OCPS has been screening for weapons on its campuses for the last several years. Some are large scale, where metal detecting wands screen everyone at a chosen school. Others are smaller, screening a single class or an arriving bus, and all are random. But dates are set at the start of the school year, though now the superintendent says the district is set on having more.
While we're working to harden our campuses, I don't want anyone to think it would be similar to the airport where you can only get through their screening. We are certainly not that kind of hard perimeter.
And I feel like every school does their best, whether they have a metal detector or not. Safety is the #1 priority when it comes to our kids.
For Orlando mom DeVay Kai, no matter what measures are taken at school, she says safety lessons should start at home.
We all teach our kids to do the right thing, I would hope.
As for those random metal detection screenings, we're told that 3 of them took place today at middle and high schools, but the superintendent reiterated that that was already planned before the Parkland shooting. Matt LaPola reporting, West 2, the News Hour at 10.
We are constantly learning new details in the South Florida school massacre. When we get them, you can count on West 2 News to bring them to you. And when we're not on the air, you can stay up to date with us on WESH.com and our West 2 News mobile app. Tonight, a jury convicted the Central Florida millionaire who shot and killed his wife in their Windermere mansion.
It was Bob Ward's second conviction, and it caused emotions to run high in and out of the courtroom.
West 2's Robert Lowe was there for it all.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of...
After 2 days and 10 hours of deliberation, 6 jurors found former millionaire developer Bob Ward guilty of manslaughter with a firearm for killing his wife Diane. Seething with anger, Ward's daughter was outraged by the verdict and stormed out of the courtroom screaming.
My mom tried to kill my dad, and he's going to prison for it!
This is the second time Ward has stood trial in his wife's death. His previous conviction was overturned by a judge. This week, prosecutors painted a picture of an angry, distraught man whose business was failing. The state said tensions were high between the couple as Diane was set to testify at a bankruptcy hearing against her husband's wishes just days before the deadly shooting.
I just shot my wife.
You just shot your wife?
I shot my wife, yes, please, since whatever.
Laying out an alternative theory of what occurred, Ward's defense attorney spent much of the trial claiming Diane was unstable, pointing to her use of mixing antidepressants and alcohol. The defense argued Ward was trying to stop Diane from killing herself, explaining a struggle ensued, and the trigger was accidentally pulled.
I asked the jury to let the nightmare end,
today. Sadly, the nightmare for the Ward family continues. That's all we have to say.
Robert Lowe reporting, WESH 2 News.
Meanwhile, State Attorney Aaron Misiala released a statement on the verdict saying, "My office invested a lot of time, hard work, and commitment to reach a guilty verdict that we believe was warranted based upon the evidence and facts of this case. We are pleased with the jury's verdict and satisfied that justice was served."
An 86-year-old Lake County woman is dead after a truck backed up over her. It happened just before 9 this morning at the home on Crooked Oaks Lane in Leesburg. The Highway Patrol says the truck had just made a delivery to the home of 86-year-old Anna Shrewsbury. When the truck started backing up, it hit Shrewsbury. She was rushed to the hospital where she died. We're working to hear if any charges will be filed against the driver.
A 30-year-old woman died in an accidental fire in her family's New Smyrna Beach condo overnight. Fire investigators say that they were called to the condo in the 500 block of South Peninsula Avenue just after 2 a.m. The blaze was contained to one unit, and after getting it under control, firefighters found the victim dead in her bedroom. Neighbors who called 911 tried to get inside, but the smoke was too thick.
There's a girl inside there, and there's smoke coming everywhere. I can't see flames, only smoke.
Officials believe that the victim fell asleep with a cigarette that set the bed and then the room on fire.
It's one of Florida's biggest construction projects, the I-4 Ultimate Project.
And while it may create some headaches for drivers, officials say that it is right on track for completion. We'll give you a look at the major milestone the project just hit and what's still to come.
Plus, a potential change in his title. We'll tell you about Orlando Police Chief John Mina's future plans in law enforcement.
One of the newest sections of the I-4 Ultimate construction is finally open. A new 3-lane section eastbound between Lee Road and Maitland Boulevard opened this week.
And it comes as the massive project reaches the halfway point. Tonight, WESH 2's Amanda Ober looks at the work already finished, the work still ahead, and the frustrations it's causing for local drivers.
1, 2, 3.
The 6.5-year rebuild of I-4 began in February of 2015, and it's now almost half complete. For many drivers, it has been an inconvenience.
It is just horrendous. This morning alone, 25-minute drive up from Lake Mary takes me about 45 minutes to an hour.
Despite the angst, those behind I-4 Ultimate claim it is going as planned. They say it's on budget because it has to be. It's a lump sum project, meaning it will be completed for $2.3 billion no matter what. They also claim they are on target to finish all 21 miles by 2021 as promised. WESH 2 News asked a spokesman for the project to identify the biggest changes so far. The first is at Kirkman and I-4. The westbound exit to Kirkman used to be on the left, now it's on the right. And a new overpass connects Grand National Drive to the north end of I-Drive, giving tourists a new way to cross the interstate. The second biggest undertaking has been the reworking of Maitland Boulevard and I-4. Last fall, westbound traffic on Maitland Boulevard was shifted to new elevated lanes, but it'll be almost another year before all of the traffic is shifted to new permanent lanes. Also in Maitland, they're building this 625-foot steel pedestrian bridge across I-4. It'll connect Lake Destiny Drive to Wymore Road and will be complete in 2019. As for what's still to come,
on the I-4 408 interchange is our most intricate area of construction. It's going to take the longest to complete.
Parks says the dramatic reworking of this exchange, which will ultimately look like this, will take the full length of the project. That means from now until 2021, drivers in this area will experience lane shifts and the challenges of navigating the most complex rebuild of the whole project. And finally, when all is complete, 4 express lanes will open down the middle of I-4. They promise to maintain a traffic flow of 50 miles per hour for drivers willing to pay the variable toll to use them.
If the thought of 3 more years of this construction is discouraging, I do have some good news. One reason this project is called I-4 Ultimate is because this is it. all the right-of-way will be used up, so you can ultimately enjoy that thought. In Orlando, Amanda Ober, WESH 2 News.
A little something to hang your hat on there. Several people are forced out of their homes tonight after 2 sinkholes opened up in the Villages. The holes started growing overnight, getting bigger and bigger. The soil collapsing all around these homes. The movement caused cracks outside and inside at least one of the homes, which had to be evacuated and has now been condemned.
Very scary, but I was glad I had sinkhole insurance, extra insurance. Other than that, I'm glad that nobody got hurt.
Engineers are now assessing the danger to nearby homes.
Orlando Police Chief John Mina has officially announced his run for Orange County Sheriff. He did so with a wealth of supporters in front of the Orange County Courthouse today. He also offered his support to Broward County law enforcement in the wake of the high school shooting tragedy yesterday. Chief Mina has served with the police department for 27 years and says this to criminals.
Me as chief, but to all. Make no mistake, I do not like criminals. I don't like thieves. I don't like robbers. I don't like drug dealers, and I don't like people who abuse women and children. To the criminal element who preys upon this community, and to the truly evil ones who prey upon our children and the weak, and to those that will harm our law enforcement officers, we will bring you to justice.
Chief Mina is running as an independent candidate. He has 2 opponents, Joe Lopez and Tom Stroop.
One of the things that we could count on the last several nights here in Central Florida was fog, but it looks pretty clear out there tonight.
It is. There will be some fog tomorrow morning. The overall coverage is not going to be as widespread, but there will be some thick pockets. We'll go over that here in a second. Let me take you back outside right now. Look at that. We can actually see up towards Daytona Beach tonight, unlike last night. Temperature up there, 64 degrees right now. The wind is out of the south at about 5 miles an hour. When we take a look at the visibilities around Central Florida, we're in good shape right now. But watch what happens after midnight. Fog does begin to settle on and up here towards Marion County, northern Sumter, northern Lake. Maybe a little bit of patchy fog over towards Titusville. But again, the main concern areas are going to be north of Leesburg from the Villages up towards Ocala, DeLand north and west, Flagler Palm Coast over towards Bunnell north and west. That's where the thickest fog is going to be. I want you to check back in with Amy as you get up tomorrow morning. By mid-morning, we're in great shape. Visibility is over 10 miles. Satellite right now showing that we are fairly quiet. Nothing on the radar here other than a few clouds coming in from the north to the south. Mild night once again. We are stuck in the springtime pattern here in the middle of February. 64 Palm Coast, 69 currently in downtown. We're running about 5 to 10 degrees warmer than this time last night. And when you take a look at the morning low temperatures, a normal low would be in the low 50s. So area-wide, we're running a good 5 to 10 degrees above average. The setup for the next couple days, Friday on into Saturday, on into Sunday, as the front stalling out along Interstate 10. That means we are going to stay warm. Afternoon high temperatures will be running about 80 to 85 degrees. 85 inland, as you're going to see tomorrow. Downtown Orlando, Waterford Lakes, Conway, just to mention a few locales here, right at about 85 degrees. Look at Astor, DeLand, over towards Deltona, 83, 84, Sanford, Oviedo, 84, back towards the coast, upper 70s and low 80s, and then as we head farther to the west from Reddick to Ocala to Salt Springs, the Villages, and down towards Lake Pennsauken, Bunnell, anywhere from about 80 to 84. Claremont, a little bit more to the south, around 85. That's where we're going to be. St. Cloud, Kissimmee, Point Siena, Kenansville, and back towards Palm Bay. But right there on the water, Cape Canaveral and over towards Satellite Beach, you'll see those temperatures in the upper 70s. For the rodeo down there in Kissimmee, for those of you making plans in Kissimmee, 7:30, 76 degrees as it's ending. At about 10:30, look for a temperature at about 71 degrees. And then the Speedway on Friday looks good for the Next Era Energy. Resources 250, qualifying at 4:30. Race tomorrow night at 7:30. Mostly clear, comfortable, and a temperature right around the 70-degree mark. When we take a look at the extended 7-day forecast, a lot of you have Monday off for President's Day. Look at that great stretch of weather coming up in the next half hour. We'll take a look at the forecast for the Daytona 500. But past the weekend, looking in towards the middle of next week, next chance of rain on the horizon is probably going to be on Thursday. Until then, the temperatures are going to stay on the warm side.
Looking good, Tony. Thanks. The Olympic Games aren't just about the competition. There's plenty for the athletes to learn about the local culture,
including some of the traditional Korean foods.
In the shadow of brand new Olympic venues lies a tradition as old as Korea itself, the process of making kwante and how important it is to winter cuisine.
Korean culture is on full display during the 2018 Winter Olympics in a nation that is as modern as it is traditional.
Watch 2's Deirdre Fitzpatrick found a roadside attraction that's turning heads near the Olympic Stadium.
It was so unusual we had to pull over as soon as we saw it. And what we discovered is a tradition like nothing we'd ever seen before. In the shadow of the brand new Pyeongchang Olympic Stadium lies a tradition as old as Korea itself, and perhaps the only thing that gets better in Gangwon-do province the worse Mother Nature gets.
이거 우리가 이름은 황태.
Hante. Hante is Pollock, a Korean delicacy created in a most indelicate way. The fish is gutted, tied, and strung to wooden racks. It's exposed to bone-chilling cold overnight, slightly warmed by the daylight sun, seasoned by the wind, and tended by fishermen/farmers until it turns yellow. How long does it take this meat and the fish to dry?
120일 정도.
120 days. By the time the fish makes it through the drying process, it retains 60% of its nutritional value, making it a very good protein source during the long, cold Korean winters. A long winter responsible for a national delicacy. Is it tasty?
네, 맛있습니다.
It's very good. A tasty tradition right there within eyeshot of the Olympic Stadium. Curious to try it for yourself? Well, you can buy 5 ounces of dried and shredded Korean pollock on Amazon for $24. At the 2018 Winter Olympics, Deirdre Fitzpatrick, WESH 2 News.
And locals say the flavor of the fish is better than sushi-grade tuna.
Good to know. The flu shot appears to be working better than originally thought. The CDC has released a preliminary report on vaccine effectiveness for the season. Overall, the vaccine appears to be about 36% effective. When experts looked closely at each flu strain, the shot was found to be slightly less effective at preventing illness from the H3N2. Now, one piece of good news, the vaccine appears to prevent illness in young children by more than half, 59%.
We continue to cover developments in the high school horror that unfolded in South Florida.
Today, the man accused of killing so many faced a judge.
You are charged with 17 counts of premeditated murder. I have something very important to tell you. You're charged with some very serious crimes. You have the right to remain.
We will have more live from Parkland after the break.